Aussie Mark here. This is probably going to be a little bit of a difficult video to make. It's a fairly complex topic, and I'm going to relate an experience I've had recently in attempting to bring in two Benchmade knives that I purchased from the United States into Australia. I should add that's not the two Benchmade knives that you see before you. I'll be bringing them in to illustrate a couple of points later. The two knives that I've attempted to bring in have in fact not got to me. They've been seized and I won't be getting them, which is beyond disappointing, but we'll get on to that. So stick with me. This is probably mostly of interest to my Australian subscribers who are looking to bring in folding knives from overseas. Before we get started, a couple of things here. I'm not looking to make this video into a rant and a rave and to make a big deal and lose my cool over it. What's done is done. It's all about educating you guys on processes, how it works, in some case the insanity of how it doesn't work, and possibly ways to avoid find yourself in the situation which I'm in, which is that I've spent money on a couple of knives and that money's basically gone, and the knives are gone as well. Alright, so let's plunge in, and I really hope this makes some sense. Just before we go on, by all means please feel free to comment on this video, but don't turn it into a flame fest against customs or the government or anyone else. It's not helpful to anyone. If you've got hints and tips that are legal, I stress, not illegal hints and tips, but legal hints and tips, by all means feel free to share them. But I don't want the comments field down below to turn into some kind of a flame fest in any direction. I will delete those sorts of comments if they come along. Alright, so let's talk about what I've tried to do. I'll just pull these knives off to one side. Before we get anywhere, let's talk about the input controls on bladed weapons, which is what we're coming into here. I'd studied this pretty well and thought I had a handle on what was going on, but as it turns out I didn't. I'll just grab up a pointing knife here to use. It talks here about knives and things that you can bring in. You can't bring in push knives, which is fine. Push knives are what everyone knows. They're obviously not a general purpose knife. They're an offensive weapon. I don't have any problems with that. They're talking about sheath knives. Now it's not what we might consider sheath knives. I'll try and bring this up so you guys can read it. Maybe you can't. I won't bother. I'll read it for you. Knives with a sheath that withdraws into the handle by gravity or centrifugal force, applied by a button, spring or other device. So I guess it's kind of like a flick knife in a way. Flick knives up here, which is the one we're going to be talking about, and it's defined as knives that can be opened with gravity or centrifugal force, and that's a key phrase, centrifugal force, and or pressure applied to a button, spring or device in or attached to the handle of the knife. Now that's what's caught me out on this one. The knives that I attempted to bring in were classified by customs as flick knives due to the fact that they can be opened purportedly using centrifugal force. I dispute that, but anyway, be that as it may. I'll take you through the story. That's just a bit of background. Let me take you through the story. I ordered two Benchmade knives from the United States. One was a model 555 mini griptilian, fairly familiar knife to all you guys, a good little utility blade. Nothing I wouldn't have thought terribly offensive or life-threatening about that, but that was one of them. And the other one was a knife that I've admired and dreamed of owning for a long time, and it's the 950 Rift, which is a lovely thing. The one I wanted, it was that one there with the charcoal and grey scales and just the plain edge satin finish blade. So I had both those on their way, and they did indeed arrive in Australia. So I'd followed the package, it cleared customs and arrived, and I went and picked it up. As soon as I picked the parcel up, I knew something was wrong. It was way too light. Sure enough, both the knives had been removed. Now, in the parcel was an envelope addressed to me, and this was the letter that came in it. I should add, I've used these tags, very poorly done tags, just to hide any private information, both for myself and of any of the officers employed by Customs or the Queensland Police I've dealt with. As I say, I'm not about persecuting them. They're doing their job under the guidelines they're given, and that's fine. I've got no issue with those people whatsoever. So this is the letter, and it talks here that Australian Customs and Border Protection recently examined goods that were addressed to you from overseas. The importation of these goods is prohibited unless a permission to import the goods has been granted. Consequently, they have been seized as forfeited goods. It goes on to list just here that it's taken two Benchmade folding knives capable of being opened, I'll bring that up for you to see and hold there, capable of being opened by centrifugal force. And of course, as I said, model 555 and a 950. Okay, so they've been seized. Across the page there, there's also some explanatory notes, addresses for police. So what it says here, your options are do nothing, and Customs and Border Protection will arrange for the disposal of the goods. Not sure exactly what that means, and we won't go there. Or 2, I can make a claim for their return. Now, this is where it gets a bit interesting. It says here, things you need to know about making a claim for the return. Making a claim does not mean the goods will be automatically returned to you. Furthermore, if you do make a claim for the return of the prohibited imports and are unable to obtain an import permit, which is what you get from your state police, you should be aware that Australian Customs and Border Protection Service will be statutorily obliged to commence legal proceedings in order to obtain a condemnation order. This can be a costly process, and Australian Customs and Border Protection Service may attempt to recover legal costs from you. Now, I actually took that as a bit of double jeopardy. I thought, okay, what you're saying here is you've taken my goods, if I do nothing, you'll dispose of them. Or 2, if I make a claim for them, and then for whatever reasons after making that claim, and incidentally you've only got 30 days to make that claim, if I make the claim now, and I'm unable to get a permit, now you're saying that for you now to destroy or get rid of my items, you now need a court order and you're going to drag me to court. And that could be a costly process, quote unquote. So that seemed to me to be a little bit of a, what would I say, not really in the spirit of things. So anyway, I rang the guy at Customs and actually spoke to the person whose name was on these documents. I should mention also a seizure notice came with it, and again that's an official notice, and it says that we've seized these knives basically. Insert details for grounds of seizure, and it's under the couple of sections which talks about these knives. Customs has a fair bit of leeway in deciding what they seize and don't seize. I spoke to the gentleman at Customs, and he informed me of the process. I disputed the fact that they were flick knives due to the fact that they are both axis lock knives. The button and the handle is purely a locking mechanism. It obviously does not flick the blade out or anything like that. We just went into the centrifugal force, i.e. he said that they can be opened by flicking the knife with centrifugal force. I disputed that, but to no avail. He informed me my only option was to go to my state police and to attempt to obtain an import permit. So that's fine. Went away and did that. Spoke to the weapons branch in the state that I'm in, which is Queensland, and also looked up on the net and found this information. And it talks here about, there's a section which is relevant. Customs has seized, I should admit this is like a FAQs if you like. Customs has seized an item I was bringing in. What to do? Contact weapons license branch on this phone number. I did. I then spoke to a lady there and she basically confirmed this information. I obtained and completed the application form for an import permit. I won't show you that form because it's got my personal details on it. Whereas I then sent that form in, and also I sent in an email which gives the circumstances. What I explained to them was that I'm a knife collector. I also use them in bushwalking, camping, hiking type activities. I would be the end user. They would not be on-sold by me in any way, shape or form. They were basically for my collection. A few days later I received a letter back from the Queensland Police Service, the weapons licensing branch. Again, as you can see, I've deleted or covered up all the details. And I'll read this for you. It refers to my recent application to import, and again it lists the 2 knives. You are advised that the Australian Customs and Border Protection will not permit the importation of these items as they are defined as flick knives. You already knew that. So we won't go through this. You are further advised that I do not propose to issue the requested Form B709B, which is the permit to import, for the items nominated. So in other words, my application to get a permit was rejected. I spoke to the police officer. I rang him on the number provided here to, if you have inquiries. I did, and he was a little bit abrupt, and I suppose he probably gets a lot of this, and I'm okay. He's doing his job too. I just wanted to get information. And I explained that to him, and he made it very abundantly clear to me that if Customs define a knife as a prohibited import, at least in Queensland, this is the situation, his direction from his manager is that they will not under any circumstances issue a permit to import. So if you live in Queensland and you're thinking of doing this, basically don't bother. Don't bother trying to get a permit to import. You won't get one. Now, I don't know about in the other states of Australia. It might be slightly different. So the bottom line for me is I've run out of options. There's no way for me to get my 2 knives in, another 20 odd days they're going to be disposed of, whatever that means. Interestingly enough, I'm just checking my list to see if I've left anything out, and I have. There is a list that is held by Australian Customs, and they list prohibited imports amongst Swift knives, literally by brand and model. When I spoke to the gentleman from Customs, I asked if that list is publicly accessible, so that, for example, someone like myself could go along there, look at the list and go, well, okay, it's on the list, therefore I won't bother trying to import it. The answer was no. You can, however, email Customs if you are interested in bringing a knife in, and you need to email them with the brand name of the knife, the model number, and if possible on your email, a link to that product on either the manufacturer's website or maybe the retailer's website, whatever. If it's not already on the list, they go away and somehow, by looking at it, as a picture on the internet, divine whether or not it's a prohibited import. Now, the address for my Australian viewers, if you wish to get that, is information@customs.gov.au. I'll annotate that on the video as well. I would strongly advise any of my Australian viewers who are looking to import folding knives, and I should mention that this is only folding knives. Fixed blade knives are no kind of a problem whatsoever. I don't know about swords, but fixed blade knives obviously are not flick knives. So we're talking folding knives only. I would advise sending an email to Customs with that information prior to purchasing or making payment on any knife from overseas, because if the answer comes back no, you've probably just done your money. And also, when it's brought in here, they do log it against your record that on Customs that you've attempted to bring in a prohibited import. And that's something I didn't mention earlier. I spoke to there is actually something on here that says even though they weren't going to charge me this time, I should find that thing from Customs. Where's that letter? It's quite an interesting thing if I can find it. Important notes. Yeah, I'm not sure where it is, but somewhere on there it says something on the lines of Customs have chosen not to prosecute me on this occasion, however they'll keep a record of the fact that I attempted to bring in an imported item, and if I do so again they may well charge me. In other words, I could find myself getting a criminal record potentially, and I found that really quite offensive. I guess I'm a law-abiding citizen, I don't have any sort of criminal record, and here I am being treated like a criminal. But anyway, I'm trying to think what else I've left out with this. So I guess my approach in the future will be any folding knife within reason. I mean, obviously if it's things like, say, a Swiss Army knife or something that's only got a thumb nick which cannot conceivably open with one hand, I won't bother. But any Spyderco's, Benchmades, etc., any of your more modern style knife, before I order anything, I'm going to email Customs with the details. I may have a list of, X amount of knives that I'm looking to do. I normally buy them in batches, and I'll wait and get that answer. And then and only then will I make those purchases, because I know now that it is completely pointless for me to go to the Queensland Police and say, I'd like a permit to import this for private use, because they've told me in no uncertain terms, just ain't going to happen. So, alright guys, I hope that's been of some use to my Australian viewers, and for my overseas viewers who are watching this and are probably quite staggered by it. I dare say my viewers in the United States would be quite amazed by this. This is what can happen. I know in the US there's an organisation called Knife Rights. You knife guys who are in the States, you don't realise, or maybe you do after watching this, how good you've got it. And you need to protect those rights, because seriously, they can be eroded, and next thing you find yourself in a situation like we've got here. Sorry this wasn't an entertaining and fun video, but I think it's something that needs to get out there. And if you guys have got any questions or queries on this, I don't claim to be an expert. This is simply my one-off experience with it, and it's taught me a bit, and I'm hoping to just pass that knowledge on. If you want to know more from me, or you have any particular questions, message me. If you wish, put it in the comments down below. Again, please keep the comments non-inflammatory. I don't need the hassle. Thank you all for watching, and good luck with your knife collecting and importing. I think you're going to need it. Bye for now. I'm back. I forgot to mention why I had these two knives in the video. These two knives that I've got are Benchmades, obviously, and you're probably wondering, I went through that video and I got a little bit confused and flummoxed about where I was going. I knew it'd be a tough video to make. How did you get these two, you're wondering? Well, I bought these from an online, two different online retailers in Australia, and the reason they're significant is they're both axis lock knives, just like the two I tried to bring in. The 555, this is a model 527, roughly the equivalent size, and yet I could buy that here in Australia. Interestingly enough, there's an online retailer in Australia who does bring knives in, and he currently has a model 555 listed in country on his website for sale as we speak. So I couldn't bring it in, but he's obviously got a permit to import and he's reselling it. The craziness of that is he is almost certainly interstate, so he's in a different state, but I can buy that knife off him and bring that into Queensland. But I can't buy it from overseas and bring it into Queensland. Go figure. The reason this knife's in, this is a model 551, again it is an axis lock and it's equivalent length and everything else to the 950 that I wanted. Again, I bought this from an online retailer here in Australia who I don't believe carries Benchmades anymore. But the point is, I got it. And let me tell you, I may never be able to get another folding Benchmade knife. Who knows? But man, I'm going to treasure these two. So I just thought I'd better roll in at the end of this why I had these two knives in, because I completely forgot to mention that. Alright, thanks again for watching, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.